I'm from Germany, and the legal age to drink here is 16 for beer and wine, and 18 for liquors. So on the day I turned 18, me and my best friend decided to go out to our nearest city to grab some drinks at a local bar that is quite popular. But since it was a Tuesday night on school summer break, there weren't that much people around, so we just enjoyed spending time together, meanwhile sipping some margaritas. All of a sudden, the waitress, who I actually kinda know because she previously graduated from the school I went to, comes up to us, saying 2 men want to buy us a drink, pointing at a table at the other end of the outdoor section. At this time it was around 10 p.m., and even though it was midsummer, it started to get dark, so we didn't really see what the guys looked like at first. We just thought, yeah, fuck it, why not? And went over to thank them. At this time I recognized that there was a younger looking guy, in his early to mid-20s max, and a middle-aged man, that was obviously already intoxicated. The younger guy, let's call him Tom, asked us to take a seat, and since he seemed like a nice guy that wanted to chat, we agreed. So as we were talking, getting to know each other a bit, I noticed the older guy intensely staring at me, like he didn't even blink. I looked at him as I noticed him, and it was then when he said, "How old are you? You are so beautiful. Do you even know how beautiful you are?" I told him I just turned 18, laughed it off, clearly being uncomfortable, and thanked him for the compliment, since I knew he was clearly drunk, and tried to change the topic. As we were talking about life in general, Tom tells us that the older guy is actually his neighbor who is currently going through a divorce, and so he wanted to distract him with a night out. We thought it was sweet of him to help this guy going through a hard time. Then he mentions his neighbor is an architect, encouraging him to maybe talk about his interesting profession rather than creeping on a freshly 18-year-old. Because at this point he was constantly interrupting our conversation to tell me kinda inappropriate things like how sexy and special he thought I was. Then the conversation turned dark real quick. The guy started to talk about how he doesn't seem to have any sense in life anymore, and that he wanted to kill himself. I also struggled with a lot of depression since I was a child, so I wasn't super freaked out. I was more like feeling sad for the guy and tried to calm him a little bit, while texting my best friend that was just seated next to me on how we can maybe get out of that situation. But then he said, "I can't. I just want to end it. I have a knife on me right now. I'm going to do it right now." Threatening his life, kind of begging us to tell him a reason to not just commit suicide right in front of us. At this point, Tom started to apologize and calm him down. Didn't really work. I mean, I felt sad for the guy, but we just met him maybe 1 hour ago, and you never know what an intoxicated man that claims he has nothing to lose, that also carries a knife on him, is capable of. Me and my best friend, being scared now, come up with a plan over text to fake a call from some male friend of ours we wanted to meet up. So she changed my name in her phone quickly to a guy's name, and so I called her while hiding my phone in the pocket of my vest. And let me tell you, this bitch performed the most realistic fake phone call I've ever witnessed. So good actually, that for a moment I was like, wait, is she really calling me, or did she find a friend to call? At that point the man is just begging us not to go, making us even more uncomfortable. But we just apologized ourselves, and as we were about to leave, Tom asked me for my number. I wanted to leave quickly, so I gave him my number, which he called immediately to make sure it was legit, of course, but I blocked him right after he texted me. If you'll ever hear this, Tom, I'm sorry. You really seemed like a sweet dude. But this night was just not it, Chief. Me and my best friend still kinda joke about it till this day, how quickly it went from 0 to 100 that night, and how we were definitely not prepared for this. Nothing happened to us that night, but it was very frightening nonetheless. Stay safe, ladies and gentlemen, because even though nothing happened to us in particular, you never know what people are capable of. I think we were around 11 or 12 years old when this girl from our group decided to have a sleepover for her birthday. We were excited because we had never been to her house before. Her parents put a tremendous amount of effort into the party. There was a buffet, a barbecue, a cake, and even a clown. We felt a bit embarrassed about the clown, thinking we were too old for it and that it was just awkward. But that was nothing compared to the strange party games hosted by the dad. The first game was Find the 50 pence. He hid 50-pence coins around the house and we had to find them. However, he was chasing us, hooting and screaming loudly like a hyperactive child. Again, we felt embarrassed, but since the birthday girl seemed to be enjoying it, we pretended to be in the spirit of things. Then came the wish game. He wanted us to sit on his knee and tell him a wish. Now I felt extremely uncomfortable, and I could tell my friend did too. However, the birthday girl sat on her dad's knee, sharing her wishes. Before we knew it, he was looking at my friend and patting his lap. At the time, I thought my friend did a commendable job of not looking horrified. Looking back, there was no way he could have thought she was comfortable sitting on his knee. She reluctantly sat on his knee, mumbled her wish, and then it was my turn. I foolishly thought I would get a pass being a boy, but no such luck. He patted his knee, looking at me, so I sat on his lap and made a wish. Nothing overtly sinister happened, but the whole situation left my friend and me feeling uneasy. Afterward, there was the cellar game. That's what he called it, and I thought, hell no, I'm not going into a cellar with this creepy old man. My friend seemed almost panicked at the thought. However, the dad lifted a rug to reveal a trap door leading to the cellar, and suddenly I thought, well, if that's not the coolest thing. So we ventured into the cellar. Truth be told, it was pretty cool at first. The dad had a candle as the only source of light with the door closed. It was a small concrete room, and we sat on the floor while he told us creepy stories. I got the feeling these stories weren't age appropriate, and our parents wouldn't have been happy if they had been there. That made it even cooler. He told a story, building up to the creepy reveal part, and then he blew out the candle. We were plunged into absolute darkness, and I was laughing and shouting, as was the birthday girl. But my friend sounded genuinely panicked. Once we got out of the cellar, I commented on how cool it was, but my friend looked genuinely upset. Later, before bed, I managed to catch her alone and asked if she was all right. She told me that after the dad blew out the candle, he tickled her in the dark and put his head on her neck. She was really frightened and asked me to promise that I'd stay awake with her in case the dad did something. My friend fell asleep, as did the birthday girl. I was really tired, but my promise to my friend kept me awake, feeling like a knight in shining armor. Suddenly, I heard someone coming up the stairs slowly, trying not to make noise. The door opened, and the dad peeked inside, just watching for what seemed like ages, at least 2 or 3 minutes. He didn't seem to notice me because I wasn't pretending to be asleep. I was just watching him, watching her, my friend. Then he walked into the room and stood over my friend, watching her. I was completely freaked out, and despite feeling like a knight in shining armor just 10 minutes ago, I now had no idea what to do. I could feel tears welling up behind my eyes, and I hadn't even realized I was holding my breath until I let it go and made a noise. At that moment, the dad looked in my direction. I remember his eyes going really wide, and then he quickly scurried out of the room. My heart was pounding, and I looked at my friend, wanting to wake her up. I didn't, though, and at some point I must have fallen asleep because I woke up the next morning. I live in a certain Midwest city that's infamously known and scrutinized for its gang violence. No matter how great of an area my side of town is, I can't help but be hopelessly paranoid due to the media and how it makes one bad neighborhood seem like the entire city is horribly crime-ridden. As a result, I'm always aware of my surroundings and always err on the side of caution. I nanny part-time for a family through school. It's easy, good money, and I get paid in cash. On certain days of the week, I'll pick up the little girl I nanny, take her to her after-school activity, and then to home. By the time this is completed, it's a little after 6 o'clock. Being winter, it was already pretty dark by then. Their house is located in a neighborhood that used to be considered the wrong side of the tracks about 20 years ago. You'd never guess now, due to all of the high-end retailers and million-dollar houses filling the streets. It's in an interesting transitioning phase where one block is filled with brand new mansions and the next block over is run down and sometimes downright scary. So even though it's getting pretty affluent, you still get your fair share of riffraff and break-ins. Anyway, I've never felt unsafe or scared on their street. It's small and not particularly well lit, but filled with families and townhouses. Their house is located at the end of the street, and when I reached it, I saw an old man standing in the driveway. He looked lost and appeared to be checking addresses. The people who live next to the family I watch for is an elderly couple from Argentina. I'd seen the man before. We call him Vovo, but really only in passing. I asked the girl I nanny if that was Vovo standing in the driveway, and she said no. He's standing in the middle of the driveway and moves to the side when he sees that I'm trying to turn in. These are all town homes, and it's the city, so the driveways are only about a car length long off the street. I crack my window very slightly. Even if he looks like an innocent old man, I'm not taking any chances. He comes up to my car and is holding on of those large cookies you can get in the bakery at the grocery store with frosting that says "Happy Birthday." He asks me where Donna is and that he's come to celebrate her birthday with her. He leans the cookie up by me as a sort of means as proof. Confused, I tell him that there is no Donna that lives here, or a Donna that lives on the street that I can recall, and that he must have the wrong address. He comes closer and adamantly tells me that this is the address he was given. I explain to him again that he must have the wrong place. Frustrated, he asks me to get out of the car and help him read the piece of paper with the address he was given. At this point, the little girl I nanny is repeating, I'm scared, from the back seat. I grew up with stranger danger constantly drilled in my head, and I go over the same routine with her often. We have a safe word. I make sure she knows her address by heart in case she gets lost. Never talk to anyone she doesn't know. You know, the works. My alarms are going off, her alarms are going off, so I slowly roll up the window and back out of the driveway without saying anything to the man. He watches as I drive away and doesn't say anything further. I turned on the next block and made my way back on the street just to check to see if the man was still there. Sure enough, he was. But this time at a few houses down. I was still feeling odd, so I kept driving and we stopped at a local Target just to kind of wait out for about 30 minutes. I came back and he was gone. I assumed he had found Donna or just given up. When I pulled into the driveway, the next door neighbor was pulling into her garage at the same time. I went out and asked her if she had seen the old man earlier, and to my surprise she did, and our stories lined up. However, this time Donna supposedly lived at her exact address, instead of ours. We spoke to the neighbors at the end of the block, and they all shared the same story, all with him wanting us to get out of the car or our houses to help him find the house he was looking for. That's when I started getting the chills. What I had chalked up as a senile old man was probably some sort of decoy for robberies or carjackers. He was trying to lure us out of safety so that someone who was hiding could swoop in. As the weeks and months wore on, many robberies and sexual assaults happened within blocks of the house. One girl was walking and someone approached her for directions. When she let her guard down, another accomplice from behind grabbed her and assaulted her in an alley. I hate to think, but it was probably the same team. Once I was throwing out garbage in the dumpster by the alley during the daytime, and I looked up to see men by a computer next door. Not knowing who lived there, I assumed they were working on something together. Later I find out those men were actually robbing the place and I had made direct eye contact with them. Again, I'm not sure if they're all linked, but it's terrifying to think about. I felt awful for even talking to that old man and putting me and the girl I nanny in any sort of potential danger. But nowadays it's so difficult to figure out who really is genuinely asking for help and who has ulterior motives. I guess it's just the sad reality we live in. I always get complaints that people from the city are rude and unfriendly, but it truly is a defense mechanism. I see so much shit on a daily basis that it's safer to face forward, not make eye contact, and keep conversations with people to a minimum. Again, it's a sad reality, but truly better safe than sorry.